Welcome to another reading of The Storming of Hell by Andrew Harper. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to do another live reading of my book, The Storming of Hell. And, yeah. So if you didn't know, you just know, listen to my music or whatever. I write fantasy books. And you can check them out on the Fire from Heaven shop. There is The Storming of Hell. There is At the Mouth of the Great River. There are some other books. The Evil Wolf Chronicles. The Wolfheart Chronicles. Discourse with a Dragon. Got a few books now. Only physical versions of a couple of them. I'm working on the other ones. So, if you're wanting physical version of like the Evil Wolf Chronicles, that was like one of my first ones. I'm going to work on that probably this week and hopefully get that done. And got lots of other stories in the works. So if you like kind of a twist of epic fantasy like Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia, then check it out because those guys are pretty influential in my writing. Lewis, Tolkien, Bunyan, George MacDonald, who's like the influence of Tolkien and Lewis, so he's really great too. If you haven't heard any of his stories, go check them out. They're great. But anyways, we shall continue with Chapter 14, Reunion of Brothers. Hellstormer was terribly wounded in his stand against Stonegrinder, but he was quickly healed by his brother Hellraiser as he discovered that the fire undying can be used to heal. It gave his hands great healing abilities, so he saved many lives that would have perished that day. The army now set up camp near the south end of that field where they did battle and kept Hell under siege, and Hellstormer was recovered and prepared to fight again. As they discussed their plans, the two brothers separated for so long now enjoyed each other's company, and as they prepared, many different armies began pouring into the camp. Many of them said, "We heard the horn of the firefolk and took up arms against the demons." There were many armies and many valiant men leading them who had taken up the same calls as Hellstormer and Hellraiser. The army of the firefolk was now very great indeed, going from 1,000 to 10,000. And these were haughty men and women. They were strong and filled with righteous fury. The ensuing months were spent in securing Hell and keeping it under siege. More of the firefolk poured in, and the army continued building. The building of a wall was started all around Hell's Gate, and the devil kept it shut. Skulking back to the shadows, waiting and preparing his forces as well, for he had many secret places where the scattered demons could enter the fortress, so both armies continued building and preparing for what would be akin to the Battle of Armageddon. The brothers, long separated, though they prepared for a terrible battle and waited on the edge of war, took much joy in each other's company. "Brother, I thank you for sounding the horn of old in the deep underground, and for awakening me from my sinful sleep," Hellstormer said to his brother. Hellraiser replied, "Brother, it was not I, but you who sounded the horn that stirred me from sleep." Hellstormer was confused. "But I heard the horn blast in the deep before I sounded the charge against Hell." "Then it was not I, my brother, nor did I hear it, and I was in the deep." "Is there another that we have not found?" Hellraiser asked. The two sat and wondered at this question. Hellstormer said with triumph in his voice, "Then there is hope in the deep for more brothers, and we are more in number than we perhaps realized. And though the hordes of Hell are great, it seems we begin to outnumber them, and if we are united, we will be victorious." But the brothers would soon realize the forces of Hell were greater than they anticipated, as the armies of Hell poured forth from the apertura of Umbraeus, a portal of chaos from which innumerable hordes poured forth after the devil realized his great need for stronger forces. Chapter 15, The Apertura of Umbraeus. Deep in the halls of Hell, The devil known as Desolator screamed in rage as his general told him that the captured firefolk were unbreakable. One named Firelighter was especially hardy and endured much, said the demon general. His name is Self-Scorner, exclaimed Desolator. He is a self-scorner, and tell him he can go back to his old ways of self-scorning if he tells us what this leader Hellstormer is planning. He will not, my lord, said the general. We offered to set him free if he went back to his self-scorning, and he would not. We even offered him and the rest the safe flight unto death, and they all refused. What tomfoolery is this? Questioned the devil. Who would reject something as secure and safe as a safe flight unto death? 'Tis our sacred doctrine of debauchery, our creed of complacency. Sacred and safe, how dare they reject it? The fools! I will hang them for such stupidity. Who would reject the security of my state to be free, as they say? Freedom itself is responsibility and thus a slavery. Why not give themselves to me? I will go and speak with them myself, the devil thought to himself, and stormed out of the room. Down, very far deep in his dungeon, he met with the captured firefolk. Brothers, the devil began, I have come to free you. We do not want your foolish safe flight unto death, devil, shouted Shadowless, and do not call us brothers. Do what you will, but we are slaves to you. I can't read right now. But we are slaves to your evils no longer, and we do not want your false security. We belong to no one. We are free men and creatures belonging to our God and him alone, he continued. So be it, said the devil in reply. Oh, gosh, I lost my place now. I have no choice but to extract the flame from your chest. This is good practice for the audiobook. The dark, dank dungeon echoed with the agonized cries of the captured prisoners. Their faces, once filled with indomitable spirit, now reflected a mixture of weariness and despair. The devil known as Desolator reveled in their suffering. His imposing figure exuded an aura of malevolence, and his voice carried a hint of seductive charm as he addressed the weary firefolk. Ah, Shadowless, the devil sneered, his voice dripping with icy venom. Your flames may have once burned bright, but now you find yourselves at my mercy. Surrender, and I shall grant you a life free from strife, a life devoid of pain and worry. Shadowless had encountered countless adversaries in his time, but none as treacherous and cunning as the devil. He knew better than to trust the seductive promises of this malefic being, for the price of such a tempting offer would surely be their souls. You think we would willingly trade our freedom for your deceitful promises? Shadowless retorted. We are the firefolk, and our flames shall never be extinguished, nor can you extract them. The devil chuckled darkly. Ah, the firefolk, so resilient, so stubborn. But tell me, Shadowless, what good is your fiery spirit when it only leads to your own demise? I offer you an escape from this futile battle. A life where your flames can flicker gently until they are extinguished naturally. Need more coffee. Still waking up. He circled the captives, his presence commanding and suffocating. With my contract, the safe flight to death, you will find solace and peace. No more pain, no more struggles, just an eternity of tranquility. Shadowless knew the devil's words held a dangerous allure, especially to those who had suffered greatly. But he also knew that succumbing to this tempter would mean sacrificing their purpose, their legacy. Raising his voice, Shadowless addressed his fellow firefolk with unwavering determination. My brethren, do not be swayed by this master of deception. Our flames may flicker, but they still hold the power to ignite change, to inspire hope. We fight not for a worry-free life, but for a world free from the devil's grasp. As the words of Shadowless echoed through the dungeon, a spark of defiance ignited within each captive. Their weary eyes regained a glimmer of determination, their spirits reignited by the unwavering resolve of their leader. The devil's facade wavered for a moment, a flicker of frustration passing across his face, but he quickly regained his composure, his voice dripping with contempt. So be it, Shadowless. If you choose to deny my offer, then you shall suffer the consequences. Summon my priests, the devil now said. Bring the prisoners to the apertura of Umbraeoth, and we will watch their hearts break before Hellbringers pouring through the portal from other worlds to crush this rabble of savages. Demon guards now seized the firefolk prisoners and took them to a dark and terrible place. A place, or more better described as a plague, a disease of darkness seeking to uncreate the world from within, and from it poured forth legions of demons, not just demons, but monsters so deeply dwelling in the dark that many are nameless. Oh, what evil has bewitched our world, cried Shadowless. Though I am my name, still a dark shadow untold attempts to take hold deep in the very fabric of my soul. Oh, my soul, I am undone. And now this uncreation takes hold and starts to unmake me. All of the brothers grieved, for this shadow was piercing to their very essence, and attempting to undo the works of the one deep within them from the days of old. Oh, where is the Great One? Shouted Ravenfeeder. Where is the Creator to battle this Uncreator, as he did in the tales of old? Shadowless began to despair. No, do not let my heart be under siege again, Great Father. Do not send your child into the pit of despair. I cannot fight this shadow, O Great One. I can't stop the siege engines of fear and terror in my heart, and the shadow chokes out the flame. On this terrible day, a great one fell among the firefolk. Shadowless, once completely full of light, and where no shadow could enter, now filled with darkness. The devil laughed and taunted him. Now I have recently had an opening come up. There is position of lightless demon. I'd like you to fill it, and it is only a fitting name as your old name was Shadowless. The others remained unbroken, and they shouted with rage at the devil's terrible plan. The devil walked away, his guards carrying Shadowless with them. Take the others to a deep and dark cell where I never have to see them again, said the devil with a wicked glance. They were taken to a deep and dark cell to be forgotten and left to rot and die slowly. The devil, now excited he had broke the spirit of Shadowless, consulted many of his magicians, and with the headless body of the fell demon Lightless, they brought the two to the very apertura of Umbraeoth, and performed a wicked dance with demonic chants and utterances, as the bodies were lain on opposite ends of the apertura, and then both were sucked into this vortex or darkness. Finally, at the end of the ritual, a terrible thing emerged that has never been seen in the world. A demon so terrible it'll make your very bones chill. A lightless fire. The demon Lightless and the fire-born Shadowless, now bound to make lifeless. An unkillable force of raging black fire. A weapon with no mind nor conscience, but only in order to fulfill. Yes, shouted the devil. Never has such a thing been done before. Ha ha ha, he laughed. You are the first of many that I shall call the Coxsphere, wielders of the lightless fire. Lifeless emerged from the apertura. What is your command, master? Find the one called Hellstormer and bring him to me alive, Desolator said in reply. It will be done, my lord, Lifeless replied. He then began making preparations for his mission and followed a general to the armory. Chapter 16. I think we're probably like halfway through. Where are we at on time? Oh, it's only been like 15 minutes. The tyranny of philosopher kings. Call a meeting with the philosopher kings, said the devil to his servant. Right away, sire. Would you like me to direct them here? Tell them we meet atop the tower, so I can show them the armies of the enemy gathering. But won't he see you there, master? The fire rekindled named Hellstormer will see you. The servant said with fear in his voice, I care not, you little rat. Now go. Let him watch in terror as our eyes meet again from afar. He now thought to himself. The philosopher kings were called, and through the apertura they came from all across the world. Now the great six sat among each other at the top of the tower in a circle, each one complaining to the first, that was Desolator, for letting this rabble defy them and build an army at his front gates. There were 6 devils total, one of whom has been named already, that is Desolator, his full name being Life Desolator, and the others were Daughter Desecrator, Man Defiler, Just Corrupter, Freedom Enslaver, and Liberty Slayer. They were all very fine demons, the finest you'd ever meet. While most would think demons would have a harsh and evil voice, they forget the nature of demons to deceive. These 6 were the master deceivers, and though many demons were monstrous and ugly, these were very handsome and beautiful in appearance, and their voices as smooth as the marble of the devil's court. They were very skilled wielders of words as well, very masterful, in fact, in their use of words, and their ability to use them to turn people on each other in order to extend their own rule and power. They all continued pouring out their frustrations and complaints to Desolator in a very fine manner, as if children throwing a fit, but a child capable of logic and reasoning, and with a great vocabulary, so impressive their parents would bend to their argument. But Desolator was not having it, and he of the 6 was the most impatient and ill-tempered of them all. Silence! He shouted, interrupting their complaints. My lords and ladies, I understand your frustrations. It is as you have said. The source of all these comes right from my doorstep. But we are under siege, and it was very difficult to call all you here through the apertura, for Umbreoth demands a heavy price, though we serve him for using his black magics. These folk are not rabble, as you say, either. I will allow such foolish talk no longer, though I will forgive it this time. Say not this thing again, for they are hardy folk. I know because I dealt with them in the past, and all of those who were my philosopher kings before have passed, and they failed to warn you properly of the danger that these people pose against our state. You know not what it is we face, and this is not some mob of villagers with pitchforks. These are the Fireborn, wielders of the fire undying, and servants of the great creator Akole, the one who banished our master Umbreoth. Your foolish fallacies and willing forgetfulness of the tales of old have brought this doom, for it was your men, Freedom Enslaver, that brought about this rebellion when they defied my decree stating not to burn any Fireborn alive as punishment. But they did this to the one named Hellstormer to make a mockery of his people's legends. These people are akin to fire, you fools. They are like the great phoenix, another creature of old that you mock as myth and nothing more. And when Hellstormer was burned alive, his heart was released from the black magic, keeping him under siege, and he has now done as we did to him, and laid siege against the very heart of demondom, the fortress city of hell itself. After Desolator had finished speaking, the others whispered to each other as he stood amidst them. Why do we not send forth our armies and break the siege? Said Daughter Desecrator. You may not have guessed it, but Daughter Desecrator was one of the 2 ladies in the council, the one who hated women most of all. Though she was one of the demon women, it was a strange custom among these demons that the ones who hated women the most were female demons themselves, and declared the male demons acted terribly, though they tried to do all the same things that were more customary among the males. You often find such backwards reasoning and fallacies among demons, though they are very skilled with words and their heads are so full of knowledge they could burst, but not even a drop of wisdom nor practicality was to be found among them. "Patience, Desecrator," replied Desolator. "As I've said, this is not some foolish rabble, but a hardy folk, and their army is constantly recruiting many slaves, and now many flames burn in defiance of our reign. We have a formidable force, but we are in no hurry. Though their army may build, ours builds many times the rate that theirs does, and Umbreoth is sending hordes from across other worlds. Many terrible things the Fireborn will not be prepared to face. We must hide and wait for the right time to strike." Now the Devil's meeting had ended, and they went back to their own castles scattered across the world in dark hidden places, and they remained there for a long time as the forces of hell prepared. Alright. Where are we at now? Oh, I could definitely read another chapter. Probably read a couple more. Chapter 17. Shadow and Flame. Lifeless now followed a demon general to the armory. I said that last time. "What will be your weapon of choice?" the general asked. Lifeless looked down at his hands and summoned the black fire from his hand. "I need no weapons, but I am in need of armor." He looked and saw a fine set of armor made from the mighty ore of fire iron. "Honey, will you be quiet? No one wants to listen to you over there licking yourself." Lost my place. "Take me to a forge. I shall make myself a real set of armor." From the set of fire iron armor, he made a terrible thing. It seemed he could make anything lightless and cold like the black fire. He then donned his armor and set off to find Hellstormer by going through the apertura that took him close to the gates of hell, for it was many miles from the inner city where he was. Hellstormer and Hellraiser now walked outside the camp together and were telling each other of their adventures. It had been a long and tiresome day, and as both brothers had a moment to slip away, they needed solace and time to think and gather their wits, so they did. Near the end of their walk, Hellraiser spotted something terrible, a lightless shadow following them in the darkness. "This cannot be," he exclaimed. "What is it?" asked Hellstormer. "A lightless shadow creeps in the shadows." I just realized that could have probably been written better. "A lightless shadow creeps in the shadows." But his darkness betrays him, for he is the one called Lightless, and he is so lightless he can hardly blend with the shadow. "But I slayed him," said Hellraiser. Hellstormer tried to look. "No, don't let him know you see him. I know not how he has returned, but he is darker and more terrible than ever." As Hellraiser was saying this, the figure crept out from behind them. "Your sight must be faltering, Hellraiser. I am now right here under your very nose," said Lifeless. Keep losing my spot. "No, this is some wretched dream. I slayed you and destroyed your memory as nothing more than a head on a spear." He took a step closer and revealed his face beneath the encompassing black flames. Hellstormer I can't read right now. Hellstormer gasped. "Brother," he shouted. "Shadowless, you are no longer your name, but the opposite. What has happened, and what evils have they done to you? I swear I shall have the head of every devil in the world and beyond for this mockery and tyranny." "Ha ha ha," the demon laughed. "My name is Lifeless, and I am sent for one purpose, to destroy your names from the annals of history and stop this siege." He then conjured 2 swords of black fire and attacked. The brothers split and leaped out of the way. A great battle now ensued between the 3, and there was no help, for they were far from the encampment. They never faced a fiercer foe. "What evils did they do to you?" Hellstormer pressed this question many times as he swung his sword at the great demon, to hear no answer but a screech of demonic fury. Hellraiser was knocked, tumbling into a pit. The demon... Wow, I'm struggling. The demon beast assaulted Hellstormer with many blows till he struck the ground panting. Dear brother, you've forgotten who you are and whose mark you bear. You are fireborn, akin to fire, the true fire, not this falsity of lightless cold flames. This mark cannot be taken, and the only one who besets your flame is of thine own making. I know not what darkness you saw, but you gave in to despair. Dear brother, come back to the light. Despair not, for there is always hope to be found in the fire undying, for no darkness shall prevail against it. The shadow fire was pulled back from his face for a moment, and their eyes met. Hellstormer, Shadowless said, they bring hordes of demons from across other worlds, through a portal called the Apertura of Umbraeus. Shut up, you fool, what are you doing? Said the voice of Lightless. Suddenly the sphere disappeared into shadow, and only parts of him were seen. As he ran away, he was not as dark as before. Hellstormer then looked and saw his brother Hellraiser climbing back up and reached down to aid him. What just happened, brother? Hellraiser asked. I heard a voice that sounded like one of our kin. It was Shadowless. Our brother is fighting the black flame, but he is hard pressed against a great darkness from the enemy, and despair lays siege against his heart. He told me the enemy has summoned armies from other worlds and is amassing chaos in preparation to break the siege against hell. As he spoke, the voice of the demon silenced him, and then he ran away, and I could not see him amidst the shadows as before. Not entirely lightless, nor is he entirely shadowless, but I sense there is a great struggle within, and should we meet again, brother, we must try to save Shadowless. He is strong, and the horrors he witnessed were so against who he was, it did something to his spirit, and his flame is fading. But though it's reduced to an ember, there is hope to see him aflame again. We dare not lose hope in our brethren. What a strange thing, Hellraiser said. How can a demon and a fireborn be united as this one named Lifeless was? Hellstormer met his brother's gaze with a look of fear. It was a terrible magic, and I sense it has something to do with what he called the Apertura of Umbraeus. We must hurry back to the encampment and summon the brethren for a council to tell them all of what we've learned, said Hellstormer. The two ran back as fast as they could. They did not realize how far they had walked as they spoke and told tales to each other. Ah, what a foolish thing we did, brother. We're at war. This is no time for walking and talking, said Hellstormer with frustration. Well, if you didn't like running that mouth of yours so much, we wouldn't have gotten so far, Hellraiser said with a smirk, trying to annoy his brother. Hellstormer replied, I'm beginning to think Mother spelled your name incorrectly, brother, and you should be called Hellraiser, because you do seem intent on raising hell and starting wars. No, they are different, but also slightly similar in meaning, if you catch my meaning, Hellraiser said with a laugh. They continued running and jesting with each other as they neared the camp, and were met with many men cheering and holding up drinks to them as they passed by. Brothers and sisters, where have you acquired strong drink in this terrible place? We are at war, and you should remain watchful, said Hellraiser. Though I much desire a strong drink, there will be time enough for that after the battles. Please put away your drinks and tell everyone to meet at the camp center. The soldiers obeyed their commanders and began convening at the center gathering place. Dear brothers and sisters, Hellstormer began, as my brother and I walked and sought Thornbearer's Rest for a few moments, we were attacked by a wielder of black flame, a lightless fire-bringer, who we fought in a great battle of flame and shadow, and though we were successful, we heard a strange thing uttered by this demon. A face was shown from behind the shadow, and it was one of our kin named Shadowless, and he told us that the wretched devils were amassing many hordes of demons from across other worlds through a hell-bringing device called the Apertura of Umbraeus. We know not what this thing is, but we are convened to tell you of our plans to gather an elite team to destroy this Apertura and cut off all of Hell's resources. For with this, they are not under siege. They simply have an enemy at their front door while they gather armies and supplies in the back door. We must beset them from all sides if we are to truly rid our world of this curse, and the city of hell is only the start, for there are a great many demon cities across our world, and those will be preparing for a battle as well, I am sure. We will be seeking the best among you and putting together our elite force of Shadow Slayers. Those of you who'd like to volunteer, please meet us after we all have supper and thank Thornbearer for all things, the good and the bad. After his long speech, all were gathered together and joined in a song of prayer. Then they feasted, they ate and they drank, though every man was limited to a pint of strong drink to keep from sleeping the next day to find hell breaking the siege. The greatest and most renowned of the Fireborn met with Hellstormer and Hellraiser afterwards and were told of their plans. After the army had rested and the elite team was forming, all rested deeply. Yes, all, and not a soul was set to watch, for they trusted in Thornbearer to keep watch for the night, and as their king he did all this and more, using his storms of pure rain over the city of hell to torment and weaken the armies massing there. Alright, I'm trying to decide if I want to keep reading or stop here. Yeah, I might stop here. Yeah, that should be a good stopping point. I'm thinking we might finish this week, though. So then we'll start my other book, At the Mouth of the Great River. Maybe by the time we finish that one, I'll have some of the other ones ordered. But thank you for joining me. Like I say, you can go to the Fire from Heaven shop and get these books. Yeah. And help support me and keep making more books and music. So yeah, this book is basically the story of the full-length album I'm working on called Hellstormer. So if you want to kind of know the story that's going to be of the upcoming album, then check it out.